Hop on in. You got to see this. Hello and welcome back to another Cedar Creek Motorsports tutorial. This time we're going to be going through the multimedia interface on the new CFMoto Uforce U10 Pro. Let's hop on in and get to it. So let's turn on the gas and let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is hit the start-stop button. We're going to leave our foot off of the brake so that we just initiate the electronics on this machine. We'll see the dash go through its little startup animation there. And this brings us to the base dashboard that's going to give you all of the basic information. And in just a second, it's going to come up with its little warning, just reminding everyone to make sure you're observing traffic rules and paying attention to what you're doing while you are operating any sort of machinery, not only this Uforce U10 Pro, but anything else you might be driving that might have an infotainment system. Make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing, and when you're adjusting things in the dash, make sure you're doing so at a standstill. To get this warning to go away, we're going to hit confirm. If you don't want it to pop up, there's a little auto skip. I'm not going to do that right now. So we're just going to hit that confirm. That's bringing us up to the GPS display right there. We're going to go back to the base dashboard right here, and how I switched that was using their jog wheel that's a little bit below the display to the left. A long hold is going to allow you to switch between the base dashboard mode and what other app you previously had up on here. So we're going to go back to our regular dashboard mode here. You'll notice nice big readout for mile an hour, and then you have your tachometer up on top. That's nice, easy to read. So on the left-hand side of the screen here, with this little UTV icon, you'll notice the rear wheels are highlighted in yellow. That's letting us know what driveline mode this Uforce U10 Pro is currently in. So right now, it's in its turf mode. So it's got an open rear differential. So if you're making tight turns on your yard, it's not going to end up eating up your yard as much. If you need a little more traction, you can hit this button on the dash to lock out the rear differential. Now both rear wheels are going to be spinning with each other. If you still need even more traction, you can throw it into four-wheel drive. You'll notice we just had the front wheels get highlighted there. And then if we put that over into our four-wheel drive lock mode, you'll notice not only are the wheels highlighted, you also have each of those locks highlighted to let you know you are putting power to each wheel and your differentials are locked out. We can throw that back into two-wheel drive and put her into turf mode, and you'll notice all of those got de-highlighted when the differentials actually got unlocked. And then for the parking brake, you do have this button on the dash. One thing to know with the Uforce U10 Pros, in order to take the parking brake off, you cannot be in the parking gear in the transmission. When you put it into its parking gear, it automatically applies the parking brake. So if you forget to apply that, but you put it into park, it will automatically go on, which is a really cool feature I wish a lot of other manufacturers would do, especially when they have electronic parking brakes. So that's really cool that CFMoto did that. So to take it off, we're going to put the machine into neutral. And then with our foot on the brake, we'll hit the parking brake off button, and you'll notice that icon disappeared from the gauge, as well as our gear indicator turned over to neutral in green. So it's very easy to tell just out of the corner of your eye what gear you are in. So we'll pop her on over into park since we're just sitting here going through the gauge. There is a lot of other functionality in this gauge. So what we'll do now is we'll do a long hold on the jog wheel. That's going to bring up the last application we were in. And if you notice at the top of the screen, there's a little arrow. Sometimes it's hard to see, but if you drag that down, this is going to bring up all the different apps that are on this multimedia interface. What we're going to do right away is go over to the settings. And this is where you can set up your Bluetooth, phone, and Wi-Fi connections on here. I'm actually going to pull my phone out and get this paired so I can show you a few more things that this gauge can do. Yep, we got the code. Yep, so all I did there was just turn Bluetooth on my phone, search for available connections. This was labeled, I don't know if it will focus there too easily, CFMoto _ BT is what it came up with on my phone, and then it came up with that code, just made sure they matched. Hit pair on my phone, hit pair on the unit, and it connected right away. And we'll see when we go over to the phone section, my devices, we see it listed right here. You can see its current status, so we are connected, and if you want to remove it, you can do it so right there. If you want to turn Bluetooth off, you can right there as well. I know Apple CarPlay kind of makes you choose Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, whatever you're doing, so you might need to turn that off. And if we go over here, this is your Wi-Fi spot. And then you can flip your Wi-Fi on if you need to do any kind of updates. You can update the GPS on this display through Wi-Fi, so you don't have to download anything into USBs and try and load it onto here. It's all over the air, which is very nice. If we go to this vehicle tab right there, that's where you're going to see this smart desktop option. Basically what that is, if you're using GPS and you're driving along, the machine's going to automatically switch over to the navigation display when it thinks you're most going to need it. If you don't like it automatically switching and you want to take full control, that's where you can just hit that over. When it's not highlighted, it's only going to switch screens when you tell it to. So it's nice they gave you that functionality there. It's not going to be flipping over on you. You do have the option to have your screen brightness be adaptive, so it'll get brighter, get darker depending on ambient light. You do have these options for different screen styles. You can have a split screen, or you can have the kind of full screen style. I'll show you a little more on that later, because that does change how you navigate through this display. It changes the way quite a lot looks. And then you can choose right here the drop down page promoter. That's going to be that little arrow. I always like having that up because it reminds me, hey, there's another screen I can pull down there. But if you don't like that, you can take that away, and you'll notice that arrow went away from up top, and now it's back. If we go down into the sound settings here, you'll notice you have a bunch of different options for your media. So that's going to be your radio or your Bluetooth audio that you're pumping through there to the MB Court speakers that are in the back. You do have other options for your phone pass-through volume, voice recognition volume, your ringtone if you're getting a call while you are paired to this unit, and then you have your map or your GPS volume adjustments. What's also really awesome they added in here is the equalizer. I always like messing around with the frequencies to get my music sounding how I believe it should. And they gave you that functionality there as well. And let's say you changed all these around and you kind of forgot where everything was, you want to find center again, just hit reset. It'll all go back to the baseline. And then you can also adjust your balance as well if you want it to be playing through the left speakers or the right speakers. And then as we go down to the system settings, this is where you're going to have kind of more of your setup stuff. So you can choose what type of clock, if you want a 12-hour, 24-hour time. You can have it set automatically depending on what Wi-Fi networks you're hooked up to, or you can select the exact time zone yourself. You can also select different things like your languages, what kind of units you want it. If you decide to go up to Canada, you can switch it over to metric and Celsius. We'll leave it on Fahrenheit and Imperial for now. And then if you go into this About tab, this is where you're going to find a bunch of good information. Like they do have the VIN number stored in the dash here, so you don't have to try and get a bunch of mud off to read the engravings on the frame. It also gives you a lot of other information for this display, what kind of hardware, software numbers it's running, as well as Bluetooth addresses. So if you really need to connect a bunch of stuff, you need to figure out what's going on, this is a good place to go. They also give you the available storage on here. So you'll notice it's filled a good of the way up. A lot of that is going to be the map data because it does have the whole United States in there. And now we're going to use this drop down screen once again, and we're going to head on over to the media applet. This is where you're going to have access to the AM, FM radio, as well as your Bluetooth audio device. So if we're on over into the AM, FM radio, you can switch between AM, FM in the top left right there. You can also hit the play pause button in the center there if you want to have it stop playing audio. You can also skip over to the other stations. You can set ones as your favorite. Another cool thing that you can do with this, if you hit the jog wheel quickly once, it's going to start playing the audio, and same thing if you just hit it quickly once, it's going to start pausing the audio. And then there are a forward and back button next to that jog wheel as well if you want to just quickly skip to the next station without having to go into the dash. Those buttons will also work when you are over in to the Bluetooth audio section. They will work for skipping to the next track, and the jog wheel will still work as the play pause button. If we just press and hold that jog wheel, that's going to go back to the base dashboard display. If we press and hold it again, that's going to bring us back to the last application that we had up on this screen. Now let's head on over to this speed limiter function here. This is pretty cool. So in order to use this, you do have to set up a code on the machine. I set this one up as our street address for Cedar Creek Motorsports. So once you have that pin set up, you'll have to enter that every time you want to use the speed limiter function. But what this does is allows you to select if it's going to be speed limited at 25 miles an hour, or you can choose to have it limited to 37 miles an hour. And you know it's on by checking this power button right here. As long as that's highlighted in blue, you have the speed limiter on. And you are also going to notice up at the top of the screen, it lets you know as well. And then once it's on, you can select the different speed limits. So we're going to turn that off there, and to get out of there, you can hit quick. That will go back to that last application you had as well. Another really cool thing that they added in here is they actually have a G-force indicator on here. So that'll let you know how much G you're pulling when you're accelerating, when you're braking, when you're doing a bunch of turns out on the trails. Something cool that you can have right there. You can also change the theme on it. You can make it look a little bit different. And then there's also a Pro one that looks like it's locked out now. We don't really have too much information on that, so more to come. But there are these three basic themes that you can use for that G-force indicator. And a really awesome thing they threw into this display is going to be the vehicle diagnostics. So right now, you're not seeing anything pop up in here, but let's say it threw an engine code when it was running. You're out on the trail, gives you that little check engine icon. Right now it's on because the engine's not running. But let's say you were out riding and that does pop up. You can go over to the vehicle diagnostic application, and this is where it's going to show you any of the diagnostic trouble codes that popped up if you did get something like a check engine light icon when you are actually riding on trail. So right now, brand new machine. It's not currently running. It's not going to have any trouble codes because it is a brand new machine. These CFMotos are built pretty awesome nowadays. It's cool that they give you that kind of peace of mind so you at least have a better idea of what's going on if you do run into engine light while you are out on the trail. And if we go back to the application screen here, you'll notice these page icons on the bottom. If we swipe it on over to the right, this is our info card screen. So it defaults to giving you trip 1 and trip 2 meters. So it's going to tell you your max speed for trip 1, trip 2. It's going to show you how far you went, and it's also going to show you how long you were on each of those trips for. So you can clear them out individually. I always like having one where I have trip 1 being my fuel tank, trip 2 will be my oil change interval. So when I change the oil, that's when I will usually reset trip 2, and I'll reset trip 1 every time I fill up. That way I know what I've been doing on my oil change and what I've been doing on that tank of fuel. And if you notice at the top right here, it's kind of hidden by the seatbelt icon, but right there it says edit. So we can go ahead and hit this new plus icon in the top left-hand corner, and this will show you a bunch of other info cards that you can put up on that screen. So we have a bunch of stuff like your overall odometer, your engine hour meter. What I really like is you have your voltmeter, temperature gauge, and the distance to the next service interval, which is really cool that I like. And you have a few other small cards. These are going to be more for your trip meters. Okay, how far you were going on that trip. You also have your timers for those trips and your mile an hour counters. But if we just hit that top there, we'll notice those info cards I was selecting have popped up on top there, so you can customize this whole layout. You can even add one more card in up top. I like having these because right away I know how far till I have to do my next service interval. Temperature gauge and voltmeter for me are kind of the main important info cards. And then if you wanted to, you could add a big card, but I think, yep. So right now we kind of maxed out that space. We can't add another large card to it. But if we want, can throw in, so you can have 4 small cards and 2 large info cards on that display right there. And what's kind of cool, if I press and long hold that jog wheel button, we're back to the normal dash. If I press and hold that again, it brings me right back to that info card screen. Let's head back to the application center here. And now let's actually show you, so let's quickly go through the phone. So right now, because I have my phone paired, it's going to show me all my contacts and then recent calls. And then if I want, I can actually place a call through the dashboard here. And now let's actually switch the screen to its split screen display here. So if we hit that, we are now in its split screen mode. So you'll notice the screen changed its looks quite a lot. You no longer have a tachometer, you have your mile per hour indicator, and then your driveline mode indicator, and your fuel gauge. Kind of the bare essential stuff that you want to know just at a glance. You'll notice you no longer have the tachometer, but you do still have your speedometer and your driveline mode indicator, gear indicator, and then your fuel capacity. So they give you kind of the basic info in this split screen mode. And what's really awesome is you'll notice you now have all these icons at the bottom there. This kind of gives you all the functionality that was in full screen mode just on that half of the screen there. If you want to go into the different apps, you can hit that applet button right there. This is where you'll get into your media info, Apple CarPlay. You can get to your phone so that you can make and place calls. So you'll notice once you go to split screen, everything just kind of changes its display a little bit. Now watch what happens when we do a long press and hold here. We go back to the base dashboard display. That's kind of why I consider this full screen to be the base display. No matter what mode you have this dashboard set into, a long press on the jog wheel will always bring you back to your basic dashboard mode with all of the important information you really need. So if we go back into the split screen mode here, you'll notice this kind of hexagon with the dash through it. That is going to be your settings mode. So that's kind of how you get to all your basic settings stuff. If you want to do Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connectivity, it's under that icon right there. You also have a quick way of getting to your phone. Also, the media tab as well. Very easy. You don't have to go into the applet menu and then select it, they give you these nice little shortcuts on the bottom there. And you will notice right here where it says tips, it's very nice that CFMoto put this in for you. It is kind of like an owner's manual for this gauge display itself. Not that it's super in-depth, but it does give you little reminders if you kind of forgot your way through this dashboard and you're unable to go online, find a more in-depth video like this tutorial here. It does a good job of at least getting you in the right direction to make sure that you can use this multimedia interface. And I will say, after having played with this for quite a bit, the navigation system is really cool that they included it on here. However, I will admit, when I was using a buddy's Apple phone, connecting it to the Apple CarPlay, which I don't have an Apple phone with me at the moment, it was a lot better of a navigation experience. So if you are an Apple user, I do recommend using that instead of the built-in navigation. Just the interface on that was a whole lot nicer. It also made it a lot easier for going through all your different media stuff, because Apple CarPlay is such a good software to run. I'm glad they included it. But if you don't have an Apple phone, don't feel like you have to go out and get one, because while I felt the Apple CarPlay experience was a little bit better, this in-house unit that CFMoto developed does work very well. All of the basic stuff that I feel like I would actually use on here, being Bluetooth audio and then having the navigation on there just to see the map so I know where I am. And I'm going to pop this back over to the full screen mode. It makes checking out the nav system just a little bit easier. All right, so we have that GPS loading up in its full screen mode right there. And you'll notice on the lower left-hand corner, you have these two icons. So setting icon, pretty basic. This is going to bring up the settings for the navigation in here. You will notice you have automatic track recording. If you want it to track anywhere you drive the unit, you can flip that over and it will do so, and it will actually save those routes when you're done riding them. And if you need to update any of the maps, this is where you go to do it. Or if you want to change how the navigation looks, it's display mode if you want a lighter or dark theme, or if you want to do it automatically. And you can choose your units as well. So if we take a look at this little ATV icon in the lower left-hand corner, if we give that a press, that's going to bring up these 4 options on the bottom of the screen. Your first is going to be the tracking mode. This is going to be the ride tracking that you can manually start or stop. And as soon as you hit that, it starts recording. You can hit the pause button if you want to pause its tracking. It'll tell you how far you've gone and how long it was tracking for. And then if you want to stop that route, you hit that stop button. Since I didn't go anywhere, this navigation display knows that it's not going to save a route going nowhere. If you actually drive around, you get that blue highlighted route on there. It will save them under this save tab, which is a really awesome thing that they added in there. And then you will notice that there's this add waypoint section. So if you know your actual latitude, longitudes of that place you're trying to go, you can manually enter them right here and it will bring that up on the map and you can set your route to it. And then you can even give those waypoints an actual name. If you want to say checkpoint 1 instead of waypoint, you can do that. Or if you're trying to go over to Rockton to get some chicken, you can actually enter the latitude, longitude for that and enter in the actual name of where you're trying to go. Or if you're trying to go to your lunch spot, picnic spot, take your pick, and then you could actually save that in there, and that will save that waypoint so you can navigate towards it. You'll notice your basic compass in the top right-hand part of the screen there. And let's say you're kind of exploring the map here, you're trying to find that really cool place to get over to a beach to have lunch for the day. And let's say you kind of forgot where you were on the map. If you go to the lower right-hand corner, you'll notice this little arrow icon. If you give that a quick little press, that will bring you back to your actual location. So it's really awesome. CFMoto made this display so easy to use and very in-depth for anything you actually need. So there's two other things I haven't shown you in this gauge display. The first is very basic, right where it says CFMoto. That's a shortcut to get back to the base dashboard display. The same thing that a long press on the jog wheel is gonna do. The other is this membership center. So that's a program that provides riders with access to exclusive content, community features, and some other benefits that CFMoto might throw into there in the future. We got to remember this gauge display is new to CFMoto. They made this with plans for the future, so there's a lot more that they're going to be adding into this as they use it on a lot more machines. I know the Z10 is supposed to have this display coming in the future. The Ibex 800 also has this display, so they're planning a lot more with this. And this membership center is where you're going to get a lot of exclusive content from CFMoto, community features, and other awesome stuff that they're going to do in the future. Now that we're all familiar with the new 8-inch multimedia display from CFMoto on this Uforce U10 Pro, all that's left is to hit the trail. I'll see you out there. Let's get riding. Thanks for watching.